Yo everyone, welcome back, and today we're going to cover the other two new units that came out, which are the Sipahi Cavalrymen and the Silahdars. So let's start out with those Sipahi. The Sipahi are actually a pretty interesting cavalry unit compared to the other options that are available, mainly because they're not your typical charge damage cavalry. The huge thing with cavalrymen, from what I've seen, is they're very disruptive. And that's kind of their whole thing, is they're very disruptive. So they work really well with other units. So they have solidarity, so they increase their defense for 10 seconds after a first round of damage being taken, and it will reset after launching a break the line or leaving the battle for a certain time frame. So when using break the line, it deals additional damage to heroes after defeating a hero. That damage dealt will increase by 30% for a period of time. So that's really nice if you can get in there, take out a hero, and then you'll be able to disrupt the units very well afterwards. They also have fireproof as a pretty heavily armored unit. The big thing is going to be the unit orders. So they have chaotic attack, which in essence is a charge in that will increase movement speed, and it will do a pretty small amount of damage. It's not a heavy charge, unlike your heavy lance units or like your monastic knights. This is going to be, in essence, it's a get them in there and do something, not so much a get in there and do damage. And then you also have your short strikes, which is kind of the same thing, but more of an on use. So after you get them in there doing their thing, you can kind of keep the ability going by using short strikes. So there are two trees for this one on veterancy, and I didn't get much tested into which one I think is definitely better. I do prefer from first look the bottom tree, and that's kind of the one I've been leaning towards. So you start off with just an increase all defense with thick armor. Top tree, you get an increased critical value, you get an increased blunt damage, you get an increased damage dealt to infantry, increased blunt armor penetration, increased health, you get an increased rate of attacks, and then your big ability is going to be increases the number of enemies each soldier can attack with a single strike. So it's going to create more of an AoE capability for the cavalrymen. Bottom tree, you get each level increases blunt armor penetration, you get a increased blocking break, one of the reasons I like the bottom, you get increased charge damage, you get your increased blunt damage, your increased charge duration, you get your increased chance of a sudden strike, which is really nice. And then the big one, and the reason I'm leaning towards the bottom tree and think it's going to be better, is you get that units may be sent flying during a melee. So in essence, it's going to make them very disruptive. They're going to get in there, they're going to kind of toss the enemy units around and disrupt them, which is why I think combining these with another unit is going to be a great capability. You get someone to engage, and then if you run in with the cavalrymen, you can get a really good disruption, which allows that other unit to deal massive damage and actually wipe them out. So these aren't really a big damage unit, but they are very disruptive. They are still 4.5 stars, which means even though they're not huge damage for their tier, they still do a lot of damage. So I think they're going to be a great addition for team capability. Pretty respectable health for their tier, nothing too crazy, and pretty respectable penetration and blunt damage. So overall, I like them, and I look forward to trying to get a little more testing done with them and getting a little bit more pairings to see exactly how good these guys are going to be. Silahdars, these are interesting. The big thing with these guys are their predator ability, and we'll get into that in a second. First off, their unit traits, you have guard the leader. So when the will of the enemy is broken, they deal considerably less damage. This is kind of a big one. So between guard the leader and close protection, they get resistance to range damage, and it's increased. It can be deflected by armor, so that's really nice. They have some more resistance to ranged attacks against them. Their attacks have area effects and can damage multiple targets, so they have big axes. They can hit multiple things, and they are, of course, fireproof. Two big notes for these units. Between guard the leader and their close protection and their oath of fealty unit order, which is where they will surround the hero, and then if they're actually close to the hero, they get like a buff in essence. So they'll cut through enemies to get to you, which is a really cool thing. They'll actually attack stuff on the way to you. So instead of just charging straight for you like most of the other units will, if they're running past something, they'll kind of tap it and hit it. Now for formations, they do have a nifty extra one. So there's the cover commander like normal, where they're in a circle. These actually have a cover commander where they'll spread out in a front arch in front of you. So this is great when you want to kind of have that circling formation, especially in a tight area. But when you actually have maybe a corridor or something where you want them to be all forward. So the 2 trees for veterancy on this one, 1-on-1. So if you take the Silahdars versus Silahdars, so you take 2 of these units, you put them 1-on-1 against each other, the top tree wins. Top tree is the damage tree, the bottom tree is the defense tree. The top tree will win 1-on-1. Personally, I still like the bottom tree more. And this is probably going to be one of those situational things. Are you an aggressive player, a defensive player? Do you do more sieges? Do you do more field battles? Do you do more territory wars, where you've got your teammates to work with you, so you might want one or the other, depending on what your role is. But 1-on-1, the top tree wins. You'll see why in a second. You start with all defenses is increased. Nice, straightforward. You get razor sharp, so you get slashing damage increase. You get a reduction to your predator's cooldown by 2 seconds. You get a slashing damage increase again. You get a rate of attack increase. You get a predator damage increase. You get a health increase. You get a predator damage increase again. And the big one, predator cooldown reduced by 5 seconds. I believe if you max the entire top tree out, your predator can be triggered like every 12 seconds. 12, 13 seconds, something like that. You might still only get it off once in an engagement, but if you're in a multiple engagement, not just a 1-on-1, you potentially will get it off an extra time or 2, which is a lot of damage. That predator skill is ridiculous. So your predator skill, it says that they spread out and carry out large sweeps. I didn't really see them spreading too much. In essence, they take a big swing. So all the units take one massive big swing, and it chunks enemy units. This thing does massive amounts of damage. This thing does a lot of damage. And that's why 1-on-1, the top tree ends up beating the lower tree, is it's such a big damage dealer that one extra strike just ends it. As far as that third ability or order that we didn't cover, that one is that they'll rush forward and they'll forge ahead, doing lots of damage to enemies and knocking them out of the way. Bottom tree, once again, personally, I'm probably going to run that over the top tree just because I do prefer defensive situation with my units. I like to keep engaged longer versus so much doing more damage. Bottom's just tanky. So you get increased slashing defense, you get increased health, piercing defense, chop damage, reduced range damage taken, so it makes them even better against not dying to ranged units, increased health, you get movement speed increase, you get, when you attack, you have a chance of granting immunity to being dazed. And then the top ability, so your chop attacks have a reduced damage taken. Really, it gives them that tanky capability. Increased defenses, increased health. You have that attacking as a chance to give them immunity to being dazed. So, hope that helped you out. Have a great day or night. And until next time, I hope to see you on the battlefield. Goodbye.
Oh my gosh!